2 years before kickoff, the largest earthquake ever recorded struck southern Chile, May 1960, magnitude 9.5. The ground shook for 10 minutes. 2 million people lost their homes. 5,000 died. Chile had been awarded the World Cup in 1956. They had 4 years to build stadiums. After the earthquake, they had 2. The Chilean Federation president, Carlos Dittborn, said one sentence the country printed on banners: "Because we have nothing, we will do everything." He died of a heart attack 6 weeks before the tournament. He never saw the World Cup he saved. 16 teams arrived in Chile. Brazil came as defending champions, but they came older. Their coach was no longer Vicente Feola. A cardiac event had retired him, but Imo Ray Mo Ray Ra, his understudy, with the same 4-2-4 system, the same Pelé, the same Garrincha. Czechoslovakia arrived with the deepest squad in Europe, captained by Josef Masopust, who would win the Ballon d'Or that year. The Soviet Union arrived with Lev Yashin in goal, the man who would later become the only goalkeeper ever to win the Ballon d'Or. Hungary arrived with their next Magyars, a 19-year-old striker named Flor Ian Albert and a captain named Leos Tici. England arrived with 3 names who would matter in 1966: Bobby Moore, 21, Bobby Charlton, 24, Jimmy Greaves, 22. West Germany arrived defending the miracle of Bern. Herberger still coaching, Helmut Rahn still on the squad 8 years on. Colombia arrived for the very first time. Bulgaria, the same. Uruguay arrived as twice former champions, fading. Yugoslavia, always reaching, never winning. Spain, Italy, Argentina, Mexico, Switzerland, and the host, Chile, in stadiums they had built from earthquake rubble. Group 1, Uruguay, Yugoslavia, Soviet Union, Colombia. Uruguay, twice champions, fading. Yugoslavia, perpetually reaching. The USSR, Yashin's team, considered title favorites, and Colombia, playing the first World Cup in their history. The Soviets beat Yugoslavia 2-0 to open. They beat Uruguay 2-1. Then came their third match, Colombia versus USSR. Colombia were 4-1, down at halftime. The Soviets had Yashin in goal and no reason to worry. In the second half, a Colombian winger named Marcos Cole lined up a corner kick. He struck it directly. The ball curled past Yashin and into the net. An Olympic goal, a goal scored directly from a corner at a World Cup, the first ever. From 4-1 down, Colombia scored 3 more. Final score, 4-4. Yashin had conceded an Olympic goal, an own goal deflection, and 2 close-range finishes. The Soviet press blamed him personally. He never said a word in his defense. Colombia did not advance, but they had announced themselves. Uruguay went home eliminated. The USSR and Yugoslavia advanced to the quarter-finals. Group 2, Chile, West Germany, Italy, Switzerland. The most violent match in World Cup history happened here. Italy had insulted Chile in the weeks before the tournament, calling the country backward, the housing inadequate, the women easy. Chilean fans read every word. Their match was June 2nd at the Estadio Nacional in Santiago. The English referee, Ken Aston, the man who later invented the yellow and red card system, never recovered control after the first minute. 2 Italians were sent off, in the 7th minute and the 44th. Police entered the field 3 separate times. Italy lost 2-0. David Coleman, narrating the delayed BBC broadcast back to England, opened with, "The game you are about to see is the most stupid, appalling, disgusting and disgraceful exhibition of football, possibly in the history of the game." But the group had another story. West Germany, defending the Miracle of Bern from 1954, arrived with the same coach, Sepp Herberger, in his last World Cup. The same Helmut Rahn who had scored the miracle winner. Rahn was 32 now, his pace gone, but his place on the team was honored. West Germany topped the group. Chile, on the back of their wounded national pride, finished second. Italy went home, group stage exit, more bitter than they had arrived. Switzerland lost all three. The Bern generation officially ended in Chile. Group 3, Brazil, Czechoslovakia, Mexico, Spain. Brazil opened against Mexico, 2-0, Pelé and Garrincha each scoring. Routine. Then came Czechoslovakia. 25th minute, Pelé struck a low shot from 30 yards that hit the inside of the post. As he turned to run back, he pulled up holding his groin. The match ended 0-0. 2 days later, scans confirmed. Pelé would not play again. The king was gone in his second match. Brazil's third match was against Spain. They needed a win. Spain scored first. Adelado, 35th minute. Amarildo, the man called in for Pelé, equalized in the 72nd, 86th minute. Garrincha received the ball on the right wing, cut inside two defenders, slipped it to Amarildo, who finished low across the keeper. 2-1 Brazil. The Czechs drew with Mexico 0-0 and lost to Mexico 3-1 in the rematch. No, they only played once. Mexico beat Czechoslovakia 3-1, but the Czechs had drawn with Brazil. That single point sent them through. Brazil topped the group with their stand-in striker and the man with two legs of different lengths. Czechoslovakia advanced quietly. Mexico went home with their first World Cup victory. Spain went home eliminated. Group 4, Hungary, England, Argentina, Bulgaria. Hungary opened against England in Rancagua. Their captain was the 34-year-old Lev Yashin. Their 19-year-old Flor Ian Albert was already being called the inheritance of Puskás. Hungary won 2-1. Then Argentina, the Albiceleste of the new generation, beat Bulgaria 1-0. Albert's day came against Bulgaria. He scored a hat-trick, 3 goals, all stylish, all decisive. Hungary's 6-1 win was the largest of the group stage. England drew with Bulgaria 0-0, slow, defensive, joyless. Then England beat Argentina 3-1. Bobby Charlton scored. Jimmy Greaves scored. They were 24 and 22. They were getting ready for 1966. Hungary topped the group. England advanced second. Argentina, the home of football's romantic chaos, went home group stage exit. Bulgaria, in their first World Cup, lost all 3. But Albert had announced himself. 4 goals, joint top scorer of the entire tournament. The Magyars had not died with Puskás. They had only paused. 4 quarter-finals. 2 days. Brazil versus England in VEE Nha del Mar. England had Bobby Moore, Bobby Charlton, Jimmy Greaves. Brazil had Garrincha. He scored twice. A header from outside the area, then a curling left-footed strike from the right wing. He set up Vava for the third. Brazil 3-1 England. Chile played the Soviet Union. The host versus the favorites. Yashin in goal again. A tournament he was still trying to recover from. 80,000 Chileans at the Estadio Nacional. Lionel Sanchez scored. Eladio Rojas scored. The home crowd carried them. 2-1 Chile. Yashin's World Cup was over. The Soviets went home. Yugoslavia played West Germany, the defending miracle generation against the perpetual runners-up. Yugoslavia won 1-0. The Germany of Rahn and Herberger went home. The Bern generation officially ended. and Czechoslovakia quietly beat Hungary 1-0. The Magyars 2.0 fell in the quarter-final. Albert's tournament ended. Czechoslovakia, with Masopust running their midfield, advanced. 4 quarter-finals, 4 eliminations. The hosts had eliminated a legend. The defending champions of Bern had ended. The Magyar inheritance had been paused again. Brazil and Czechoslovakia would meet in the final. 2 semi-finals, 2 days. Brazil versus Chile in Santiago at the Estadio Nacional, the same field where Dittborn had stood, reviewing construction. The same field where the Battle of Italy had been fought. 80,000 Chileans in the stands. Their tournament had been miraculous. Garrincha scored in the 9th minute, left-footed curler from outside the box. He scored again in the 28th, a header from a corner. Half-time 2-0 Brazil. Chile pulled one back. Vava scored 2 for Brazil. Chile got a consolation. The final score was 4-2. In the 77th minute, Garrincha got into a brief scuffle with a Chilean defender. He was sent off. The host country's tournament ended in the semi-final on the same pitch where it had been saved. The other semi-final was quieter. Czechoslovakia versus Yugoslavia in Viña del Mar. 3 goals in 20 minutes. Kadraba opened. Schroif kept Yugoslavia out. Scherer and Kadraba scored again. Czechoslovakia 3-1. Masopust controlled the midfield without speed or violence. The team that had drawn with Brazil in the group stage had reached the World Cup final. They had played 4 knockout matches. They had won every one. 2 days after their semi-final defeat, Chile played Yugoslavia for 3rd place. 1-0 Chile. Eladio Rojas scored in the 90th minute. The host country took bronze. The Estadio Nacional, the same stadium that had been built on earthquake debris by a federation president who had not lived to see it, hosted its last cheer of the 1962 World Cup. Carlos Dittborn had promised 2 years before that with nothing they would do everything. They had done everything. They had also won the bronze medal. Before the final, the Czechoslovakia captain, Josef Masopust, he was 31 years old. He had been playing professional football for 15 years. He had won 3 Czechoslovak titles with Dukla Prague. He had never been seen in tabloid headlines. He had never sought one. At the end of 1962, when France football voted for the Ballon d'Or, the award for the world's best footballer, they did not vote for Pelé. They did not vote for Garrincha. They voted for Josef Masopust. He won the Ballon d'Or in the year he led Czechoslovakia to the World Cup final. He is one of only 2 Eastern European players ever to win the award. In Brazil, the cameras would follow Pelé even when he was on the bench. In Czechoslovakia, the cameras did not exist. Masopust would walk to training, train, and walk home. On June 17, 1962, he would walk into the Estadio Nacional and try to win his country a World Cup against a team that had Garrincha and Vava and the system Pelé had built. He had been waiting for this match his whole life. June 17, 1962, the Estadio Nacional in Santiago, the same stadium where Chile had been eliminated 4 days earlier, the same stadium where Italy had been disgraced, the same stadium where Dittborn had stood, watching the construction he would not live to see. 68,000 people. Brazil walked out in their yellow shirts. They were the home team in this final by FIFA designation, and Czechoslovakia had to change. Czechoslovakia wore white. Masopust led them out. Garrincha led Brazil. Pelé sat on the bench in a tracksuit. 2 former coal mining countries. 2 former colonized countries. The largest country in South America against the largest in Central Europe. The whistle blew. B12 operator, final placeholder. 40s, 4-min window. Sync to operator spec arrival. Brazil lifted the World Cup on June 17, 1962. 3 days later, the FIFA jury voted Garrincha the tournament's best player. He was 28 years old and had won the World Cup in the same tournament where Pelé played 80 minutes. 23 days after Garrincha lifted the cup, on July 10, 1962, a satellite the size of a beach ball was launched from Cape Canaveral. Its name was Telstar 1. It weighed 77 kilograms. It orbited Earth at 950 kilometers altitude. It carried the world's first communications transponder, a device that could receive a television signal from one ground station and retransmit it to another across an ocean. Up to that moment, every football match outside your continent had reached you either delayed on tape or summarized in a newspaper. Telstar 1 did not exist 23 days before the 1962 World Cup final. It did exist 23 days after, 36 days after the World Cup final, on July 23, 1962, Telstar 1 carried the first live transatlantic television broadcast. The signal originated at the Andover Earth Station in Maine. It traveled to space, was retransmitted by Telstar, and arrived at the Ploumeur-Baudou ground station in France. The European audience watched a satellite broadcast image of the American flag flying outside Andover. They watched a brief speech by President Kennedy. They watched a portion of an American baseball game. Up to that moment, the European audience had never watched anything happening in America live. The transatlantic information economy began that day. Football would never wait again. The next World Cup, in 1966 in England, would be broadcast live across multiple continents through the satellite network Telstar had pioneered. The 1962 World Cup ended with 32 matches played, 89 goals scored, and an average attendance of 28,000. The Golden Ball, best player of the tournament, went to Garrincha. The Golden Boot, joint top scorer with 4 goals, was shared between 6 players: Garrincha and Vava of Brazil, Valentin Ivanov of the Soviet Union, Dražan Jerković of Yugoslavia, Florian Albert of Hungary, and Lionel Sanchez of Chile. The World Cup itself went to Brazil. Garrincha became the first and only footballer in history to win the World Cup, the Best Player Award, and the Golden Boot in a single tournament. Pelé, who could not play after the second group match, would win 2 more World Cups before his career ended. Garrincha would never win another. Yashin would lift the Ballon d'Or the following year, the only goalkeeper ever to win it. Masopust held it for 1962. Czechoslovakia would not reach another final for 34 years. Hungary's Albert would win the Ballon d'Or in 1967. Chile's Dittborn was honored with the renaming of the Chilean Federation Cup the year of his death. The 1962 World Cup confirmed Brazil as football's permanent power. 2 consecutive titles, a country that had been called psychologically broken 12 years earlier. It also confirmed something larger. From this point forward, football and broadcast would arrive together. Telstar would not be the only satellite. The 1970 Mexico World Cup would be the first beamed in color worldwide. Pelé would play in that tournament. He would lift his 3rd World Cup. He would walk off into legend. The 1962 World Cup is when football stopped being a sport you read about. It became a sport you could watch from anywhere on Earth, live. That changes the sport more than any rule, any tactic, any individual player. It changes what football means.